Can you imagine being locked inside your house for your whole life? Caroline's aunt and uncle said she was so ugly that she had to be hidden from the world. If anyone saw her, she'd be taken to the church and burned at the stake. But things are not as they seem. One day, Caroline started asking questions. She wanted to know why the other kids could play outside, but she could only sit and look out from her bedroom window. This made her aunt and uncle very angry. They said, "Can't you see yourself? Don't you understand the sacrifices we've had to make to keep you hidden from the world?" She had been convinced that staying trapped was for her own good, but one day she decided to escape. She used a safety pin to unlock the door and left. However, soon after she made it out, two men wearing uniforms started shouting at her. She began running. When she turned a corner, she saw a group of people who pointed at her and screamed, "Monster!" Eventually, a priest came and said, "Take her to the church." They dragged Caroline to the church, put her on an altar, and set her on fire. As the fire grew, the priest turned to the crowd and said, "Look at this monster. Look at her hands, only 5 fingers. Look at her face, only 2 eyes, and her teeth a sickening white." Has anyone ever tried to talk to you in a public bathroom? Once a young girl went into a public bathroom and heard from the stall next to hers, "Shall we put on the red vest?" She got scared, ran off, and called the police. 2 officers arrived. One went in and heard the same voice asking, "Shall we put on the red vest?" The officer outside heard her reply, "Okay, put it on." Suddenly, a loud scream, then a thump. The second officer opened the door to check on his partner, then found her head rolling on the ground and blood all the way down her back, making it look like she was wearing a red vest. In Japanese urban legend, the Akamanto is a ghost who haunts bathrooms, specifically female bathrooms. He wears a red cape and hides his face with a white mask. If he chooses you, he will ask you if you want to wear a red vest or a blue vest. If you say red, he will chop your head off. If you say blue, he will grab you by the neck until your face turns blue and you suffocate. If you try to ask for a third color, the floor will open up and a pair of pale hands will reach up and drag you to hell. Ever played this game with your friends? Once there was a group of girls who heard about the game Baby Blue. They didn't believe in it but thought they could scare their friend Laura. So they sent Laura into a bathroom by herself. She turned off the lights, closed the door, and put her arms out as if to hold a baby. Then started chanting Baby Blue 13 times. What happened next cannot be explained. Laura felt a heavy weight in her arms. Then she felt the weight in her arms scratching her. She was terrified and didn't know what to do. She wanted to drop it, but she was afraid of what might happen if she did, so she froze, and the weight grew heavier and heavier. Suddenly, she saw a woman in the bathroom mirror with a twisted look on her face. She screamed in terror. When her friends heard her scream, they tried to open the door, but it was locked. When they finally opened the door, they found Laura on the floor. Her eyes had been scratched out. They tried to move her body, but they couldn't, because something large and invisible was pinning her to the ground.
This is why you should always look over your shoulder. A woman who recently lost her husband to a car accident was trying to move on. She had a hard time accepting her husband's untimely death, so it was really difficult for her. She did what she usually did every morning and got ready without him. She got out of bed, dressed herself, and went straight to work. Once she arrived, some of her coworkers were telling her about this meet and greet for single women. She originally said no, but with some good convincing, she finally agreed. She drove home and got ready and picked out a dress and was really upset because her husband bought her the dress she was going to wear. However, she continued to put the dress on because she knew deep down that he would want her to be happy. She goes to the meet and greet and meets a kind guy named Paul. The two hit it off and he invited her back to his place. Once she got inside, he said that he needed to finish up a little bit of work before the two could hang out. She said okay and sat on the couch next to him. He put his laptop in his lap and began typing. She laid on his shoulder and said, "You know what? You really remind me of my husband the way you scratch my head." He looked at her and said, "What do you mean? I'm not scratching your head." This is why you should always check your back seat. A woman coming home from work decided to drive home. As she's driving, she notices a black car following behind her. In every red light she stops at, this black car will constantly flicker his lights. She began to panic and drove faster and faster, taking every turn she could to get away from this car. As she's driving, she calls her dad and tells her that this car is following her and to meet her in the driveway so she's not alone. She pulled into the driveway and sees her dad waiting outside. Then she sees the car that's been following her pull in right behind her. The man in the black car behind her gets out of his vehicle and runs to her and says, "Get out of your car now." She gets out and the man behind her says, "There is somebody trying to kill you." The man in the black car behind her pulls out a weapon. He shows the woman that there has been a man in her back seat, and every time he would flash his lights, it was because the man was about to stab her.